So this leads finally to when to increase weight for yourself when you're programming for people with percentages and just your generally more advanced clients. And the simplest and easiest way to do it for people that you're programming for is just add 5 to 10 to maybe even 20 pounds to their training max at the end of a training cycle. Again, these training cycles can be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long you want to put the training cycle. It doesn't really matter too much. The whole point here is at the end of that training cycle, you could just add a flat amount of weight to their training maxes, to their movements. And generally 5-ish pounds is good for an upper body lift and 10-ish pounds is good for a lower body lift. Now, this is going to be modulated by a few things. If someone really far exceeds an AMRAP target, then I'm usually going to up their training max after that. So let's just say like they're doing sets of 8 and they get like a set of 16 on their AMRAP set. I'm going to pretty much usually up their training max at that point because the weight's probably a little too light. And for me, the kind of idea is if they're exceeding their target rep range by more than 5 reps, then I'm probably going to up their training max. So again, if someone's doing sets of 8, if they get 13 or more, I may increase their max. But this is also kind of modulated on a couple different factors on your client. If it's someone like myself who's a little bit older, I'm almost 40 at this point, I've been training for a long time, so my training experience is much greater. My maxes are much higher. I may not necessarily bump that person up because there's a lot more recoverability issues that come up with that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, going the other way, if you have someone who's younger, who's in really good shape, who's newer to heavy lifting, doesn't have a really long training age, then you're fine to increase their training max if they're exceeding their AMRAP targets because you're not really going to overwhelm them. And fast progress just makes sense for that person because they're so new to lifting. Versus, again, myself, I'm not going to make fast progress because I have much more experience under the barbell, so my progress should be and is going to be much slower. So just to recap that, for newer lifters, people who are just getting into barbells and you're starting to use percentages for them, if they exceed their target rep range by 5 or more reps, feel free to bump up their training maxes because progress should and will come quickly for them. So again, if they're doing sets of 8 and they get 13 or more, you can bump up their training maxes. If they're doing sets of 5 and they get 10 or more, you can bump up their training maxes. Conversely, if they're someone older and someone who has a bigger training age or their training maxes are pretty high, then even if they exceed those rep ranges, I probably will not bump up their training maxes right away. I'll save that to the end of the cycle at the end of their training period. Because the whole point here, again, is slow and steady progress to ensure proper form and to ensure that we're not exceeding our recoverability levels.